The way you apply effects in your vocals will differentiate decent mix from amazing mix. My name is Max from mixelite.com, and in this video you'll learn the best practices when working with vocals and how to get them to sound perfect every single time. Let's dive in. We'll be focusing just on applying wet effects, meaning reverb and delay. Those two guys define the depth you need, not only to fit your vocal well with the instrumental, but also just to make it sound exciting and interesting, right? That's why they're very easy to screw up. Reverb usually is something beginner producers overuse since it basically blurs the imperfections. And also the things we'll be talking about today are not obvious and quite advanced. So overall, this vocal is already half mixed. We've already applied EQ, compression, de-esser, and multiband compression. If you want to go back, I will link the vocal mixing from start to finish video down in the description below. And now we'll be adding the wet effects.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you.
You can follow this process in any DAW. Overall, you don't want to apply reverb just like this on your vocals.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you.
This will just wash out everything, and we want our vocals to be quite clear, right? We just want to add depth into it. So whatever reverb you use, there are a few basic things you of course need to do first always. That will be size. If you use different reverbs, by default we'll have different settings enabled, right? This Valhalla Reverb, which is quite popular, has pretty big size already. As you can see, it has 100%. Fruity Reverb has half of the size, right? Since as you can hear,
you're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go.
The smaller size just doesn't fit most of the vocals in my opinion. A very small size like that,
you're a fool, don't you know,
you will always hear this weird echo resonating. That's why you usually go with very, very short decay.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go.
It's a great way to add some width to your vocals, not necessarily what we are looking for right now. That's why we'll bring up the size. If you have rap vocals, you'll usually set the decay to quite short amounts, since we don't want to wash out too many words at once with each other. With a little bit slower vocals like this one over here, we can go a little bit longer with the decay of a reverb.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you.
You can just go by ear and see if you're not blurring too many words at once. If you'd like to know the perfect settings, on our website we actually have the perfect reverb and delay calculator. You can just input the BPM of your track over here, and by default you'll have quarter note. So quarter note is 1/4 of the whole bar, right? And bars you have here. So this is 13, this is 14, so one bar is here. So quarter note will be over here basically, right? Half will be here, and whole note will be like that. Quarter notes you always hear in the metronome.
You're a fool, don't you know.
So with regular quarter note, it will tell you the exact length in milliseconds. So it's about 500 milliseconds. So then you could go into your decaying time, and if you set it to 0.5 seconds, which is 500 milliseconds, your reverb will basically last for quarter note, right?
You're a fool, don't you know, for
So if you'd like your reverb to last whole bar, you mark whole note here and you have 1.8 seconds. So reverb from this word will end somewhere over here, right? Let's check how it sounds.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin.
That's actually really good, right? Because we have one loud shout over here, and we have more complicated words over here, and just before those more complicated words come out.
Letting me go. Scrub my skin.
Which is quite perfect. That's why this is actually a really useful tool. I've linked that for you in the description below. Here are also some use cases and pro tips for that. So yeah, we can leave it at 1.8 seconds. If you want to go even further, you can, I don't know, increase it by a few tenths of a second if you want to wash out a little bit more. Then we have the delay knob, which is actually a pre-delay. That is a big and very important thing when applying reverb on your vocals, and a lot of people really overlook it. Having no pre-delay is very unnatural to our ears. When you have some kind of reverb, the signal needs to first hit the wall, right? And then it comes back to you. So it will never be an instant like it is here. But how quick actually the reverb appears naturally? People say that it's under 50 milliseconds. So yeah, we could set it to 50 milliseconds. Let's hear how it sounds.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. You're a goes.
Right? It's actually pretty cool. It adds this effect. However, if you'd like to be like on time perfect, you can go to the calculator again and go to something like 64th note or 30 seconds. So there's not too much audible difference, but it will make your reverb and the pre-delay in your reverb synced with the BPM of your track. So if you have, perfectly timed vocals, your mix will actually in the long run end up being way less muddy and mushy. It makes this 1% difference, but as you know, mixing is all about those 1% differences, right? So we can go to, let's say, 32nd note, we have 58, so we can say 58, right?
Go, scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you.
If you feel like it's getting too mushy and you would like to stay under this 50 milliseconds, we can go half of it to 28 milliseconds.
Go, scrub my skin, now there's...
Alright, so if you use different reverb, for example in Valhalla, here are your pre-delay settings, you can then just go hit copy and double click here and paste it.
Go, scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you. You're a fool.
Next, in my opinion, the most important part is EQing your reverb. And most of the reverbs have low cut built in, where low cut is actually the most important part of making sure that your reverb is not mudding up the mix. So let's hear the difference.
Go, scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you. You're a fool, can't you see? Go, 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 go.
If you have really dense mix, I would go with something even like 1 kilohertz with your low cut. And this is actually already way different from what we started with. So this is what we started with.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin.
And this is after like the first level of applying the reverb.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you.
Now you know how to put in the settings of your reverb. We now actually need to apply it on your vocal correctly. So you never want to apply your reverb just like this on your vocal. So how we actually want to do it? Let's turn off the reverbs we have. So we have a completely dry vocal over here.
You're a fool.
Now we want to take one empty insert and put it next to our vocal. Then we take our vocal track and route it also to this insert. And take our reverb from here, let's copy it to this insert, and this will be our reverb track, okay? Then from the vocal itself, we can of course delete the reverb. And on this mixer track, we want to make sure we don't put any dry vocals through. Dry is untreated. And then we put the wet, that means fully treated by the reverb, to 100%. So if you use any third-party plugin, like Valhalla, then your mix should be 100%.
You're a fool, don't you know? Me go.
Now we have a whole other space just for our reverb. If you want to just hear the reverb, you can temporarily unroute your vocal from the master. And what it allows us to do is treat the vocal before it hits the reverb. The first thing is, of course, as we talked already, is low cutting the vocal. So let's apply low cut on the vocal before it hits the reverb. And also let's high cut it, because all of those guys over here in the trebles, right? Those S's and stuff like that, they are not really bringing any exciting material to your vocal. They're just mashing up the high end, right? And if you have busy mix or your vocals are rich in highs already, that's not necessary. So we can cut it like that. And the low mids here will have the most muddiness basically. And that will basically work as this low cut. So we can even take it down from here. Let's now turn on the vocal.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go.
Okay, now what we could do also is check for any resonances. So
you're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go.
You could do it manually by finding the peaks and taking them down, like I just did, or applying something like soothe before the vocal hits the reverb, and that would also allow you to maybe push a little bit more of the high end through, since you can take it down dynamically with soothe, right? So it will take down the resonances from the harshness area over here. So you are hearing right now the signal that goes into the reverb.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you. You're a fool, can't you see?
Right? We don't need that many resonances in our vocal, especially if we are just putting it through a reverb. You also never want to overdo stuff like this. I'm just showcasing you what can be done. So now if we turn on our reverb, another thing you could do is applying some saturation. Saturation knob from Softtube is a free one and sounds pretty good.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go.
As you can see, if we put this distortion before the soothe,
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go.
we're actually adding a more smooth harmonies, right, to the vocal, and that makes a little bit more rich. Let's hear it with the vocal.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now they're letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's
Now, of course, you could also use better reverb. If you use FL, I've made a full pack for you with Convolver presets. So you can just drag and drop them and, of course, make them fully wet.
You're a fool.
Right? This is how it sounds. If you want to make it a little bit shorter, you can mark it and click this button.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's
Pretty awesome Convolver presets. Check them out, especially if you don't have something like Valhalla. Let's hear how it will sound with this one.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you.
And Valhalla without any processing before.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go.
But now we still blur the vocals. Let's hear that.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's
It's messing up the mix a ton. It sounds really nice and rich, but especially if you're listening on good headphones or speakers, it is really mudding up the mix. Now we come to the third level, which is sidechain compression from the dry vocal. Since we have dry vocal over here, now on our reverb chain, if we apply simple compression, in the file you can open limiter, go to compressor, right click on the sidechain and hit vocal. Now the ratio you want to set to something like 4:8. We don't want to go too harsh because it will start to sound a little bit too unnatural and we just want to make it feel better, not necessarily audibly different. Now let's play with the threshold and hear what it's doing.
You're a fool, don't you know? 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 For letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you.
So now it's audibly different, right? You can hear that the reverb is really ducking in. That's why you could go down with the ratio or with the threshold.
You're a fool, don't you know? For letting me go. Scrub my skin,
Now it sounds natural.
You're a fool, don't you know? For
You can still hear that the reverb actually wants to cut in between the words. And if it sounds unnatural to you, you can increase the release here to blend it in a little bit more.
You're a fool, don't you know? You're a fool, don't you? You're a fool, don't you know? For letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you. You're a fool, can't you see? For setting me free. Pretend you want, but I know that you do.
Okay, without.
You're a fool, don't you know? For letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you. You're a fool, can't you see? For setting me free. Pretend you want, but I know that you do not.
Now you'll see some people on the internet tell you to use a dynamic EQ suppressor instead of a compression like this, since compressor will take the whole volume of the reverb. And if you use something like big ass track spacer and do the same thing, so in the sidechain we choose vocal, and instead of the normal compressor we use this one.
You're a fool, don't you know?
And then, with the low cut, try to hit the mid-range, basically. So we are just putting down the mid-range of the reverb.
You're a fool, don't you know? For letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's no.
For my ears, it sounds a little bit better with simple compression. Now, reverb is cool, but the next overlooked part when processing your vocals with wet effects is applying delay. So what I would do is take another 2 mixer tracks, okay? This one will be our sidechain. If you want the most control of your vocal and wet effects, this is how it's done. So the fruity limiter, let's put it on the sidechain and delete it from the reverb chain. And now the reverb, let's route only to the sidechain, and the delay track also only route to the sidechain. Now the vocal, we also need to send to our delay track, because here on the delay track, we'll be applying delay, okay? Let's turn off the reverb for now, and most importantly, take the dry out of the delay, since we only want the pure effect. You can play around with all the settings of your reverb, but sometimes you will actually find it better and easier to, again, use an EQ just like we had on our reverb and put it before the delay. So we are applying the delay on a vocal that sounds like that. Let's unlink it from the master. Right, let's turn off the sidechain compression for now. And in most of the delays, you will have either the option to stick to a time. So 4 will be your quarter note, 2nd will be your 8th note. Putting it on 3 will put it into triplets mode. Same as you would put it on quarter note and triplet over here, and just copying those settings in. So putting it something like a delay, you could go with a little bit more harsh settings, because delay in those settings we have here will just basically copy over and echo the sound as is. Some delays automatically applied a lot of different settings. In that case, we could put it to off even, so we are not affecting it at all. And the delay mode I like to put into ping pong, and then panning it all the way to one side. Right, so we have it going left, right. Now, very basic settings. In triplets mode, a little bit of EQ, and now we can turn on the main vocal, sidechain it to our sidechain track, so we have the dry vocal going in, enable the compressor, and make sure that the vocal is chosen here. You could go crazy on the delay. You could apply different effects like RC20, again some saturation.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go, scrub my skin.
Making automation of the pitch of your delay also makes the vocal much more exciting. For that, you also have the built-in settings in modulation, for example, in Fruity Delay 3. And for example, if just the delay sounds a little bit too harsh for you, you can apply EQ and take down the resonances. Or again, apply something like soothe. You can also make it a little bit longer, and perhaps also apply maybe something like a room reverb to add more stereo width to the vocal. I would do it in very, very short decay settings. And of course, you can do it with Fruity Reverb 2 by taking the size down. Let's hear how the delay sounds itself. And without any processing. This is how it would sound without us controlling the reverb and delay at all.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you. You're a fool,
and with all the processing we've applied today.
You're a fool, don't you know, for letting me go. Scrub my skin, now there's nothing left to you. You're a fool, can't you see, for setting me free. Pretend you want, but I all know that you do. Now I all know.
If you like this video and like to learn more, I would love to invite you to our Mix Elite Academy, where you get hundreds of trainings like this on all aspects of making professionally sounding music. We got weekly live coaching and unlimited one-on-one feedback on your music with no limits. And just for trying it out, you get a bundle of some insane bonuses. Check the first link below or go to mixelite.com/join. And if you'd like to learn more about mixing vocals from start to finish, check this video next.